everybody, Happy New Year, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a look geared towards drier skin types. As you know, I have oily skin, but at the moment my skin is dry like a desert. I'm using an aggressive retinol skincare regime at the moment, which I told you about a couple of weeks back, and my skin is so dry, like here is rough. I've got nothing on my skin at the moment and it's so tight. If you want a really nice plump looking hydrated base when you have dry skin, it's all about the prep. On an everyday basis, creams will do absolutely fine. If it's a special occasion, then I'd definitely say think about getting a mask for your face that you can kind of put on and allow it to sink in. The more hydration you can get into your skin ahead of applying makeup, the better. Now, I am sticking to a skincare regime, but just for today, I'm going to apply some of the products that I would use in my kit for people with drier skin. Now, obviously, when I work on clients, they want the best of the best, so I always try and kind of keep into my kit medium to high-end products, and I do believe you get what you pay for. So I am going to be showing you slightly more expensive products for the base. However, I'm sure there are some dupes that you can get for hydrating skin. These are just some that I reach for. So first up, we've got the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream. Phenomenal at hydrating your base. It is super expensive, but it is really, really good. They also do a light version for people with slightly more oily skin, someone that might find this too rich. But if you've got dry skin or just kind of normal skin, this is really good before makeup. Allow it to really soak in before you go in with your foundation. Another one is the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. They also do this in an eye form. Charlotte Tilbury also has a eye serum as well. Both of these are fantastic. I'm going to go in with this today on my base, and then I'm going to use the Vitamin Enrich eye cream from Bobbi Brown. So as you can see, it's quite a rich cream. I would apply it maybe like half an hour before you're going to apply makeup. Allow it to soak in. If you've got super dry skin, you can go back in with a little bit more. My skin is so sore at the moment, so my skin's going to go quite red. So again, this is one I will use in my kit, especially for more mature skin that tends to get a little bit drier as we age. And this will just sort of like soak in and plump the skin. You do need to allow it to plump that skin. If you go straight in with your base makeup now, you haven't given the time for your skin to soften, and then it does the plumping, and then you can go in with your base makeup. This is not just dry skin, it's like dry and it's flaky. If you normally suffer with dry skin, you just tend to have dehydrated skin. It's not necessarily always flaky. If it's flaky, it needs to be exfoliated. Next up, I'm going in with the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Eye Cream. And again, this is something you really, really want to allow to soak in, because if you apply a concealer on dry skin, it's going to make it look so much worse. So skin prep's really important. So alongside these kind of hydrating moisturizers, you can use things like hyaluronic acid, which is incredible because it can hold up to 1,000 times its weight in water. Basically, it draws moisture from the air and it plumps your skin throughout the day. So it's a really good product to put on before you apply a moisturizer. I would tend to avoid products such as face oils. We see a lot of that on Instagram, but oil will break down your foundation. So hydrating it with this, it's not really going to work. The molecules are too thick to kind of sink into the skin. Instead, it's just leaving a kind of like film over the skin, and that's going to break down your foundation. So avoid oils if you can. And then when it comes to application, your best friend is going to be a beauty blender. If, like me, your skin is actually peeling or it's flaking and you've got rough patches, this is going to apply your foundation over those areas without dragging up that dry skin. You might find that your skin looks quite smooth until you get a brush on it. And as soon as you start buffing that in, you're kind of like moving all that dead skin. If it's not quite ready to leave your face, it's just going to kind of peel up and it's going to make your skin look drier. When your skin's like that, there's no miracle cure that you can do with makeup. You know, your skin's malleable, so as soon as you start moving and stretching your face, your makeup's going to pull away. So there's no miracle cure except for really doubling down on a skincare regime, sticking to it and allowing your skin to be the best it can possibly be. When it comes to foundations, there's a number of foundations you can get. Something that's quite dewy is good for dry skin because you want something that's going to reflect light. It's also a little bit more plumping, a little bit hydrating looking. I try to avoid anything that's matte because it's just going to make your face look very flat, lifeless and extra dry. One of the new ones I really like for dry skin is by Bobbi Brown. It's the Intensive Serum Foundation. So you can see it's really lovely. It's a beautiful feel to the skin. It's got really good coverage, but it's like a serum. It's really lovely, very hydrating. With this one, the idea is that it's kind of like foundation meets skincare. It does contain SPF of 40 and it's about £51 for 30ml. I'm not sure how many shades there are. I know there's over 20, but because it's more like a serum foundation and it can be sheared right down, the shades are a little bit more forgiving. It's not like it's full coverage and that shade is the only one that you can wear. If you want something that's lighter in coverage, the Nudestix Tinted Cover Foundation is really nice. I like this one less so with oily skin, definitely more for kind of normal to drier skin types because it is quite dewy. I feel like if I wear it, I do need to powder down the centre of my face and I don't feel like it lasts quite as well on me, but I do love the product. This one is the It Cosmetics Your Skin But Better CC Cream. This one is kind of more like overall it works for everybody, whether you've got oily skin or dry skin. I do tend to quite like this one. Really good if you've got a lot of redness in the skin. It has a lot of colour correcting properties to it, so if you've got redness it will counteract that. The pigment's really high but without being really thick. Today I'm going to use this Invisible Flawless Poreless Primer. This one contains SPF 50 and this is really good for giving you a smooth, flawless, poreless appearance to your skin but without being too silicone-y. So I'm only going to use a very small amount because I'm only applying it down the sides of my nose. When you mix it, it's quite fluid. It's not thick. So I'm just popping that on the sides of my nose and just a little bit here where I tend to get a little bit oily. It's such a lovely texture. Today I'm going to go with the It Cosmetics purely because my skin is quite red. So we're going to take that redness down. I'm going to go with light medium because it's the winter now. And I'm going to start with just kind of like one pump. Going to spread a lot of this out onto the sponge. You can just pop it, like I normally say, straight onto the face. And then if you do lots of dots on your face, the sponge won't absorb the majority of the product. But where my skin's quite dry, it seems to be kind of like sucking in the foundation and it's staying in the shape that I've put it on. So I am going to sacrifice a little bit of the foundation into the sponge and I'm going to use that straight onto the skin. It's really bizarre to have like that drier skin for me. I'm so not used to it. So you can see it's really taken the colour down and it's now matching me, which is really nice. And you can see it's luminous, it's hydrating. Like the Bobbi Brown foundation, it is a skincare meets makeup kind of vibe with this foundation. But because it does have that high pigment, it's kind of your all-in-one. So you can just go in with this and layer it wherever you want a little bit of extra coverage. I think this comes in like 50 shades and it also comes in a giant bottle. I'm going to take the light shade of this just to pop on the inner corners of the eye. So I'm layering it ever so slightly for a little bit more coverage, but to also brighten. So this is just going on those areas that are slightly darker. I mean, it's already great coverage there where we've popped it on with the Beauty Blender. But a little bit extra just brightens that area. It tends to sink as we get a little bit older. And on the outer corners we tend to get a little bit red. Use concealer or a foundation. When it comes to powdering dry skin, it's something I usually avoid if somebody is particularly dry because it just makes them look extra dry. If you do need to use a powder, I definitely really like the one by Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Airbrush Flawless Powder. Because this has almond oil and rose wax in it, it hydrates at the same time as mattifying. It seems bizarre to have those two words in kind of like one sentence or in one product, but it really does do that. It gives the most incredible blurring effect to the skin and it really does diminish the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. I'm going to press it into the skin. So this is going on the inner corner to set and kind of blur and brighten at the same time. I'm using the shade Fair. You'll see it does mattify but it doesn't make you look chalky. When it comes to sculpting the face, we want to stick with cream-based products. Depending on how dry your skin is, mine is particularly dry here on my forehead. I've really been concentrating on these areas where I've got some lasting deep staining from my melasma. So that part is particularly dry, so if I put powder on it, it's just going to make it look more dry. It'll also absorb any of that kind of like moisture that we've got there that's keeping the skin looking hydrated. So we want to stick with cream-based products. Some of these I've showed you over the years, you'll know them. They're my favourites for a reason. We've got the Bronzing Cream by Chanel, an oldie but a goodie, but was recently, maybe last year, had a bit of a makeover to it. Looks the same. The colours changed ever so slightly. I feel like it's a little bit more hydrating than it used to be. We have the Stixx by Nudestix, which I love. creamy. You also get them in the matte form, but because they are a stick, they are still really hydrating on the skin. You get them in a variety of different colours. Again, you can use my discount code. And I like to put these on with a brush or a sponge. You can also use your fingers. They're super easy and convenient. Anastasia Beverly Hills not so long ago brought out stick contours. These also come in bronzers as well as contour colours. And then not so long ago I shared a tutorial, a very quick tutorial on how to use the iconic London sheer bronze. These are fantastic if you have very dry skin. They are more of a liquid. They give the skin this incredible dewy finish. So if you're somebody that really needs to look more hydrated, this is a really good option, especially if you want more of a tint to your skin. So there's plenty of options. Just try to gravitate towards liquidy, creamy based products. This also rings true for those of you that are slightly more mature, because even if your skin's not super dry, it is a little bit less forgiving, purely because you tend to have a lot more fine lines and wrinkles. So if you use powder-based products, it's just going to make your skin look a little bit more tired, a bit dry, a little bit lifeless, whereas hydrating products that catch the light when you move gives your skin a youthful glow. So I'm actually going to use the Chanel one. I know it's a bit more expensive. It's just one that I have not used in a little while, so I thought I'd reach for that one. Bourjois did do a dupe for it a little while back, but I think they decided not to continue with it. My preference when using this product is to decant a little bit, put it on the back of your hand. You can either use your sponge or your brush, because this just tends to pick up so much glint. It's got quite a big surface area, and you'd be surprised how much gets onto your brushes, which goes straight into your product. The surface of it is going to get grubby, and you don't want to cause skin issues. Again, we're going to stick with using the sponge purely because it's not going to drag up the dry skin. And then I'm going to use this as a bronzer rather than just contour. So the contour would sit here. The bronzer tends to sit a little bit higher. So we're going to sculpt the face with this. You'll find when you put this on the back of your hand, it has a bit of a kind of mattifying finish to it, but it is still a cream, so it's still dewy. It's just it's not going to be shiny. Everything that I'm kind of giving you recommendations for will not necessarily suit everybody. I've always said you can't kind of just recommend one foundation for oily skin, because one oily person might love it and another oily person will think that it's the worst foundation in the world. Just because it's geared towards a specific type of skin doesn't mean it's always going to love your skin. Some of you with dry skin might hate these products, and some of you might love them and already use them. As you can see, my skin looks a little bit more warm. It's softly sculpted the face. You can see it's got a glowy finish. It's not super dewy, but it's not drying. Not all dry skin means you cannot apply any powder. It really is about reading your own skin and how it reacts. So you can go and set this in place with a powder if you want to. Layering products is going to sandwich them, which means they last longer all day. So if you find that your makeup does tend to migrate, because it warms up the product, so it can shift. If you feel like your skin can take it, you can go in and set your bronzer with a powder bronzer. You can also set it with a translucent powder. That does tend to take the colour down a little bit, so you feel like you could go in with a little bit more. It's all really down to your personal preference. I'm going to take a little bit of Terracotta Tan by Nudestix and just amp up a little bit of that bronzy feel to the skin. Terracotta Tan is a little bit warmer. If you like a slightly cooler finish, you can use Bondi Bay by Nudestix. Remember, when you're bronzing, always hit the areas that the sun would naturally hit. Apply it in the areas that you normally get colour. You'll notice I've not used a concealer yet. I don't tend to reach for concealers. I don't feel like I need them, but if you do, by all means go in for concealer. What I would say is, again, use something that's very hydrating as opposed to those kind of like thick consistency. I quite like the colour corrector by Charlotte Tilbury. This one is a peachy tone. It is Fair 1, so although it feels like it's going to be too orangey on first appearance for most fair skin types, this is going to counteract any bluey tones, and it's got a really good coverage. It's quite emollient, so when it goes on the skin, it kind of, again, if you use a tapping motion, doesn't drag up that dry skin. Everything underneath your eyes will naturally crease because your warmth from your skin is going to warm up that product, which means it's going to move. When you have dry skin, the best thing you can do is not set it in place. Allow it to move and just put it back into place with your fingers when it does move. The colour corrector means you wouldn't even necessarily have to go in with a concealer over the top. You have to think of colour correction and how it works. It's the same when you're putting green over red. When you put the green over a red area, so you've got an aggressive spot, The green should cancel out the red, and the red almost neutralizes the green. So you then end up with a tone that's a little bit more skin-like, and then you can go over that with a concealer. Now when it comes to underneath the eyes and your colour correcting, you can put your colour corrector on and then your concealer, but the idea with this peachy tone is it will cancel out the bluey purple tones, and the bluey purple tones that are underneath are going to neutralise the peachiness. So it still looks bright, but it doesn't sit and look orangey on the skin. Some of the other concealers I really like are the Nudestix Cream Concealer. This one is so lovely. It gives you the coverage. It wouldn't necessarily cover super dark circles, like it's got the coverage, but it is like a skin tint. And as you can see, it's quite liquidy. It's really nice. You can see it gives coverage, but it's not drying at all. I really, really like it. This is the Hydra Prep and the Double Wear Concealer. Because it has that Hydra Prep side, it really does give your skin beautiful hydration underneath. Much like the Nudestix, it's quite liquidy, which I really like. You can see here it's quite fluid. It's a little bit more pigmented than the Nudestix one. Another one I really like is by Bare Minerals. This one is the Bare Pro Concealer. It's a stick concealer, but it's really hydrating. It's one of those ones I really like underneath the eyes. It's much more hydrating than you would anticipate. There really are so many options on the market. Anything you put underneath the eyes is going to enhance fine lines and wrinkles. It's just the way it is. There's no getting away from it. That's why if I'm not really wearing any other products on my skin, I like to only put a little bit of concealer here and here because it brightens that area, but you're not seeing the makeup. Next up, we're going to move on to blusher, and the possibilities are endless. There's so many colours, so many formulations. Sticking with that same concept that we've been talking about, creams and liquids are going to be your best bet with dry skin. Something that's kind of glowy, that bounces the light, is going to be beautiful. Don't be afraid to go for some colour, especially if you're slightly more mature. Adding colour to your skin is just going to bring back youthfulness. So we've got products like the Benefit Cha Cha Tint, which really is a tint and a stain. Again, if you apply it with your beauty blender, it's going to kind of stain the skin. It's not going to drag up any of your patchy, rough, dry skin. For something that's very natural, it is buildable. The Cha Cha Tint is a beautiful option. Glossier Cloud Paint is very similar to one by MUA Cosmetics, which is only £1. It's like a mix between a cream and a liquid. As you can see, it's quite pigmented, so a little really does go a long way. Iconic London Sheer Blush. It's a little bit more fluid, and it does give a bit more of a glassy finish to the skin. If I blend it out, you can instantly see it's much more dewy, and you can really shear it down to a tint, and you can layer it for a little bit more colour. But I think you know what's coming. The Nudestix Nudies Bloom. Things that tend to be dewy also tend to have shimmery particles, which I find, in my opinion, on my skin enhances fine lines, wrinkles and texture, which has always kind of been my bugbear. However, this is kind of revolutionary. You've seen me use it thousands of times. I just love it. They do matte versions of their blushes, so although they still come in a cream stick form and they're still very forgiving on the skin, they're not dewy in the same respect this is. This is literally like applying liquid glass to your skin. It has this ability to reflect the light, which almost counteracts the appearance of those fine lines, wrinkles and any skin texture. It's very, very clever. I love it. I love it for all age groups, and my favourite colour, as you know, is Sweet Peach Peony. I always like to apply this onto the back of my hand. This warms up the product. The reflection is just beautiful. I just love it. I get excited about this product because it's so good. So I'm going to use my sponge to dab it in, and it's so kind of understated and subtle at the same time as being glassy. I also like to take it just up here, especially because that area is a little bit dry. It catches the light. So I'm looking at me and I don't feel dry like I did when I first started. My skin was really tight. You might not have been able to see it, but up here is like so dry. It's really textured at the moment. And what's beautiful about this is if you keep it nice and high, you don't need the highlighter. You can see it just bounces the light, so you don't need a highlighter. It's kind of like an all-in-one. If you brought it too far forward, you can just powder like here if you want to be a little bit more matte. And you can make this stronger. You can just layer it until you're happy with how kind of intense it is. So just to finish off the makeup, I'm going to pop a little bit of this on my eyes and my lips, put some mascara on, and I'll come back. Popping the Nudestix colour that we've got on the cheeks onto the eyes and the lips just gives you a really quick monochromatic look. Takes no time at all, but makes you look like you've made an effort. And I've popped on some wispy lashes. These are the Kiss False Scara lashes in the lengthening ones. If you feel like you need to set your skin, a lot of times dry skin tends to wear makeup quite well. It doesn't need setting in place. But if you're not a fan of powder and you want to use a setting spray, the Airbrush Flawless by Charlotte Tilbury is incredible. If you don't mind a little bit of an extra glow, give this a go. My favourite slightly more mattifying one is the Kate Somerville SPF 50 Uncomplicated SPF. It's a great one for topping up your SPF throughout the day, but it's also a makeup setting spray, so it kind of gives you a bit more of a mattifying finish. I really, really love this. So I hope you found that useful. All the products I've used and all the recommendations I've spoke about, I will try and link in the description to give you guys options. You can shop directly from the links. Some of them are affiliate links. It doesn't cost you any extra to shop through them. It just means I get a little kickback. If you missed my last upload, it was actually a vlog. Me and my fiance went to New York for the first time ever. I will link it on screen if you want to go and watch that. And I'll see you next week. Bye guys.